Welcome back to 20-Side Adventures. My name's Ryan. This is Sorcerer 201, and as always with the 201 series, we are going to go through the subclasses. The Sorcerer subclasses are all tied to their bloodline. As mentioned in the other video, your bloodline grants you a wide variety of aspects to your class. It's going to dictate what spell list you take from. It's going to give you additional spells in your repertoire as a spontaneous caster. It is going to give you access to focus spells to augment your casting as a sorcerer, and should be a foundational aspect of the backstory and roleplay of your sorcerer, so is very important. As always, if you like what we're doing here on the channel, please give a like and subscribe down below. We're pushing to 1,000 by the year's end. Also, if you like reading about the adventures and the going on at my table, check out my Substack where I'm doing detailed novella-style write-ups of my players' adventures. And lastly, the best way to and easiest way to support the channel, leave a comment down below. I always appreciate chatting with you guys. With no further ado, let's get into Sorcerer 201. All right, so the first thing when you pull up the Bloodlines page is they have a quick description telling you how to read a bloodline entry. So tradition's going to tell you which spell list you're pulling from. Bloodline skills are the skills you're going to be trained in. The gifts are going to be the spells you're granted for your spell repertoire. Bloodline spells are going to be the focus spells that are available. Take the appropriate feats. And then blood magic is the benefit of when you cast a sorcerer's gift or a bloodline spell that is in addition to the spell granted. Now, it is important that blood magic only works if it uses a spell slot, so your cantrips will not get these benefits. Aberrant, this is first up. The fluff, something ancient and unknowable speaks to you from beyond the stars or below the earth. I'm not going to go through the spells on each of these. Like, you can look up the spells to see if they're spells you're specifically interested in. I'm going to go through the bloodline spells, the blood magic, and just kind of talk about the skills that you're trained in. So Aberrant, you're going to get the occult tradition, so you're going to have occult spells. You're going to have intimidation and occultism as your skills, so pretty decent there. Your bloodline spells, tentacular limbs, gives you tentacle limbs, so you're going to increase your reach and give yourself, if you have claw strikes and things like that, to more reach. But most importantly, you get 20 feet more reach on your spell attacks. If you take advanced, you get Aberrant Whispers. This is a 5-foot emanation and it hits all foes within the area. And you can have it cost 1 or 3, increases that emanation. So you could get up to 15 feet total on this. It is a will save. And they can go from critical failure, confused, failure, they're stupefied too, and then nothing affected on a success. So if you're fighting other casters and you're close to them, this could be incredibly devastating. And then unusual anatomy, you gain basically aberrant conditions. So you're going to get a resistance 10 to precision damage and resistance 10 to critical hit damage. You're going to gain dark vision, and acid oozes from your skin. So creatures that hit you with unarmored attacks now take damage from biting into you. So some pretty interesting self buffs there with your bloodline spells. Your blood magic, this is an ominous pall spills from your mind. Either one target takes a -1 status penalty to will saves, or you gain a +2 status bonus to will saves for 1 round. Now this is super important. This is when you cast Phantom Pain, Stupefy, Vampiric Feast, Confusion, Slither, Nevermind, Warp Mind, Uncontrollable Dance, or Unfathomable Song. We scroll up here to reread blood magic. If the blood magic effect offers a choice, give them a -1, give yourself a +2, make it before resolving the spell. Therefore, this -1 effect happens before they make the will save for the spell you have cast upon them. So that's pretty spectacular. The Aesir, one of your ancestors was touched by an Aesir, and now the ringing of steel against steel and the constant call to battle echo through your blood. Tradition for the Aesir, you will be a divine spellcaster. You're getting intimidation or religion, so this is kind of that holy warrior spirit. Your spells reflect that. Your bloodline spells are Barbed Spear, so you conjure a vicious barbed spear and hurl it at your foe. Make a ranged spell attack roll that deals 1d8 piercing damage on a success, double the damage on a crit. The spear remains lodged within the creature it hits, making the target clumsy 1, or increasing the clumsy condition should it already be clumsy. They have to spend an interact action and a successful athletics check to remove this, so you're either pulling actions away from them to get rid of the penalty, or you're inflicting a pretty reasonable penalty on them. This is 30 feet, and it targets their AC. Wings of the Valkyrie. These are wings that give you a fly speed, and you can shove people with them. And Let Not the Fallen Rest. This is going to let any of your allies that have a dying value that is 2 or less, so they can't be being 3 to regain 40-10 hit points and stand as a free action. So a pretty good heal option, plus just an epic way to get everyone back into the fight. Your blood magic, so when you cast any of those sorceress gifts or use those bloodline spells, you bring down a bolt of lightning to damage a foe or energize yourself. You gain a +2 bonus to your reflex saves for 1 round, or the target takes 1 electricity damage per spell rank. So if you're casting for a spell rank 2, you're going to deal 2 lightning damage. However, this one you do combine the damage before determining weaknesses or resistance. So special caveat there, I guess, you don't resolve it before the spell lands. Angelic, one of your forebearers hailed from the celestial realm. Again, ancestors mentioned, but not the Aberrants.
No, horny! Bunk. Shoo! Ahora vete la horny gate!
Tradition is divine, so again, you're going to be using the divine spell list, diplomacy or religion for your bloodline skills. This is also really important to take note of because it really jumped out to me on this one. Does your blood magic work if you cast a spell in a different rank than your sorcerer's gifts grant it? And the answer is yes. So even though heal is a first rank spell, if you're slotting it in multiple places or you made it your signature spell, which as a healing divine sorceress is probably what you would be doing, or your blood magic works at any level it is slotted into, which the angelic bloodline is a fantastic option to be a healing sorcerer because that is an option in Pathfinder, and I think that's really cool. Your blood magic spells are angelic halo. You gain an angelic halo and an aura that increases your allies' healing from the heal spell. Allies in your halo emanation who are healed by a heal spell gain a status bonus to hit points equal to double the heal spell's level. So if you cast a level 4 heal, they're going to get an additional +8 hit points if they are in your aura. The other interesting thing is it's not your heal, it's any heal spell. So if you have another person in the party, a cleric that can cast healing, they can benefit from your halo. Angelic wings, again, you get a fly speed and you generate light in a 30-foot radius. And then celestial brand, a blazing symbol appears on the target, cursing it to face divine justice. You and your allies will receive a +1 status bonus to attack rolls and skill checks against it. Anytime a holy creature damages it, the holy creature deals an additional 1d4 spirit damage. So if you have a champion in the party, this is a great way to increase their damage output. Your blood magic is the divine aura. You project a warming aura that protects you or one target, granting a +1 bonus to all saving throws for 1 round. Demonic. Demons debase all they touch. One of your ancestors fell victim to their corruption. This is still divine, and that might seem strange, but most demonic creatures are still celestial in nature, especially in my world of Araneth. I don't actually even have demons, they're just the angels from the bad guy pantheon. Intimidation or religion. Bloodline spells are Glutton's Jaw. So you get a bite attack that does 2d6 piercing damage, and you regain 1d4 temporary hit points. Don't know how much I want to really be upfront and biting things as a sorcerer, but I guess it's good to have options. Swamp to Sloth. So this is a 1 to 3, depending on how many you spend. You're going to increase the burst of this spell, somewhere from 5 to 15 feet. The area becomes difficult terrain. The swamp deals 1d6 poison damage to creatures that end their turn in the area. Basic fortitude save. So not only are you creating difficult terrain, that will last for 1 minute, you will also deal 1d6 poison damage, and this does heighten. And as it heightens, it does increase the radius on top of when you increase it with the amount of actions taken. Chthonian Wrath? Chthonian Wrath? I'm not sure how you pronounce that. You evoke the energy in part of the outer rifts. The damage types are based on the result of rolling on the table below. So you're going to deal a random type of damage, and it's going to be 4d6 for each corresponding damage type. Each creature in the cone. So a 60-foot cone with a basic reflex save. That is pretty massive, and I can't see it with my zoomed in screen, so we're going to go in here, and it does heighten 1d6 per level, and it actually does 2 types of damage, 4d6 of each, for a total of 8d6, 5d6 and 5d6. So you're really getting plus 2d6 total damage of 2 different types, which is unfortunately random, so that can be a little hard to plan for, not be able to maximize your resistances or weaknesses, but still pretty solid damage output for a focus spell. Your blood magic with demonic is you mentally broadcast brief glimpses into the darkest desires of the mind. Either a target takes a -1 penalty to AC for 1 round, or a +2 bonus to your intimidation checks. So if you are using spells that target their AC, I'm not sure how many of these really do. I don't think most do, so you're really going to be debuffing for your allies to have better options against this person, or if you're leaning into intimidation to give yourself a bit of a boost there. Diabolic, these are devils are evil with a silver tongue, and one of your ancestors dallied in darkness or made an infernal pact.
No, horny! Bunk. Shoo! Ahora vete la horny gate!
Tradition is divine again because these demonic creatures are pulling from the divine spell list. Bloodline skills here are Deception and Religion. Your bloodline spells are Diabolic Edict, 1 willing living creature for 1 round and 30 feet. It gains a +1 status bonus to attack and skill checks related to performing the task at hand. If it refuses to perform the task you proclaim, it instead takes a -1 penalty to attacks and skill checks. Now, it does say the target is 1 willing living creature, so you aren't able to cast this on enemies, I guess, but perhaps if you've enthralled them or given them suggestion, you could use this on them and kind of combine some stuff. That one's kind of weird to me. Embrace the Pit. Devil horns grow from your skull and your skin takes on the features of a devil, responsible for your diabolic bloodline. Gain 5 resistance to fire and poison and resist 1 to physical damage except silver. Decent little buff. And then Hellfire Plume. You call forth a plume of hellfire, dealing 4d6 fire damage and 4d6 spirit damage. This increases by 1d6 as you heighten it. 10-foot radius, 60-foot tall cylinder. Pretty solid AoE spell. Blood magic. Your tongue becomes laced with fires of hell. Gain 1 fire damage per spell rank on any spell that you're casting, which I don't know how many of these you really want to be adding damage onto, like Enthrall or Suggestion, for example. Or you gain a +2 status to your Deception check. Don't know how much you're going to be able to utilize Deception, so this one's kind of a little trickier to use, I suppose, but you might be causing distractions in combat before you cast other spells or do other things, so maybe some benefit there. Draconic bloodline. This one's going to vary depending on the type of dragon, so this one has lots of different options in it. You're going to get intimidation no matter what because of your draconic nature. Bloodline spells, you're going to get Flurry of Claws. Vicious dragon claws appear and slash at 2 nearby foes. Make a spell attack roll against each creature. This counts as 2 attacks for your multiple attack penalty, but they don't incur until after both attacks. On hit, creatures take 1d8 slashing and 1d4 based on your dragon type. These increase by 1d8 and 1d4, so a decent little 2-target 30-foot versus AC. You're going to get Dragon's Breath, where you get a breath weapon based on your dragon type, and then Dragon Wings, you can fly. Lots of these granting you the flying ability. Blood magic. Draconic scales grow briefly on you or 1 target, gaining a +1 status bonus to AC for 1 round. So buffing your primary tank in the group with a +1 status bonus is pretty solid. Basically, you choose the Draconic exemplar that your dragon comes from, whether it's an Arcane, Divine, Occult, or Primal dragon. You then get the spell casting of the appropriate type, and then you gain the Bloodline skill of the associated skill to go with your Intimidation, and then you get each of these type of spells based on the dragon you take. And then we have some additional down here for the very specific dragons. They also note here the Wyrmblessed bloodline is very similar to Draconic, which we'll get to that here when we get to the W's, and it also counts for any feats that require the Draconic bloodline. Next is Elemental. An elemental influence has imbued your blood with primal fury. You granted different sorcerer gifts and spell damage types for blood magic depending on which element you choose. So again, this is a very choice-driven one. It's primal. You're getting intimidation in nature. You get the bloodline spells Elemental Toss. With a flick of your wrist, you fling a chunk of your element at your foe. Make a ranged spell attack roll that deals 1d8 of the type of damage consistent with your element, and then this scales by 1d8. A decent single action 30-foot versus AC cast. Elemental Motion, you gain a type of speed related to your element, so you could get a fly, a burrow, a fly, a burrow, a swim, or a climb, depending on which element, and then as you level up, the amount of speed increases. And then lastly, Elemental Blast, so you're getting an 8d6 either radius burst, cone, or 60-foot line, so you can actually change the type of damage you want to do. So if you're surrounded, you can drop the radius. If you are wanting to hit people directly in front of you, you have the cone, or if people have just lined up in the hallway, you have the option for the line. This is going to deal 8d6 damage based on your elemental influence, and it heightens by 2d6. Your blood magic. Elemental energies wreath your form and infuse your magic. Either gain a +2 status bonus to intimidate checks for 1 round, or the target takes 1 damage per spell rank of the type of elemental damage listed. As with all of these, that combines, so you're not getting to double dip on resistances or weaknesses. And down here, it lays out the different spells you get. As you can suspect, water gets things like Frostbite, Hydraulic Push. Air gets Gale Blast and Tailwind. Earth is getting Pummeling Rubble or Earthbind. Fire's getting Ignition, Breath of Fire, Fireball. And then it also dictates the type of magic granted through your blood magic damages. Next up, Fae. Fae Whimsy, or a tryst in a moonlight grove. Put the bewitching magic of the first world into your family's bloodline. Be careful with whimsical trips with the Fae. You are a primal caster, you're getting Deception in Nature. The Bloodline spells are you get Fairy Dust. This is another 1, 2, 3 action and a 5-foot burst, which you can increase based on the amount of actions you are dropping. They're going to have to make a will save. On a failure, they take a -2 status penalty to perception checks on will saves. On a critical failure, they still take that -2 penalty, except for the next minute, they now have a -1 penalty instead of it just being till the end of that round. And again, you could drop this in a 15-foot burst. As it heightens, it actually gets bigger. So you could affect a lot of people with this if you were managing to even drop it before combat started. Imagine the initiative penalties you could lay at your foe's feet. Fey Disappearance, you become invisible and you get to ignore difficult terrain. As with most invisibility, any hostile action you use ends it. You still get to ignore difficult terrain for the duration of the spell. This will heighten at 5th to where hostile action doesn't even break the invisibility, so you get greater invisibility. And then Fey Glamour, if you get the greater, this is a 30-foot burst up to 10 willing creatures. You call upon Fey Glamours to cloak an area of the target's in illusion. This has the effect of illusionary scene on the area or illusionary disguise on the creatures, as if heightened to a one rank lower than Fey Glamour and using Fey Glamour's range and duration. So if you want to make your party look super cool, hide them, or change an area around you, you have some Fey trickery for that. Cloak of Ribbons is your blood magic. Colorful Fey ribbons dance around you, granting either a +2 bonus to performance checks for 1 round, or you can become concealed for 1 round. Such obvious concealment, however, doesn't allow you to hide. Through lineage, magic, or wishes made real, the blood of a noble genie flows in your veins. Bloodline spells are Genie's Veil. This one is a reaction. With a flourish, you fulfill a creature's wish for protection, bending reality to keep them from harm. So this is one willing creature within 30 feet, and they are subject to a ranged attack. The target vanishes in a burst of brightly colored smoke and sparkles, reappearing an instant later. They become concealed against the triggering attack until the end of the creature's current turn. So nice little way to help your allies out there. Heart's Desire, this is a 2 action. You surround your target with a wondrous illusion of their greatest desires, which distracts them from reality. Critical Success, they're not affected. On a success, the target is stupefied 2 for 1 round. So that's pretty good on a success. If you drop this on a mage, they're getting stupefied 2. On a failure, it's for 1 minute that the target is stupefied 2, so that could really shut down an enemy caster. And on a critical failure, all the spaces around the creature now become difficult terrain on top of the stupefied 2. And then Wish Twisted Form, this is a 2 action. It's 1 creature within 60 feet. They have to make a will save. You focus your magic upon an enemy, wishing for their defenses to fail and turning their strength into weakness. The target must attempt a will saving throw for all of the following effects. Target gains weakness 5 to 1 energy type of your choice. The target's resistances are reduced by 5. The target takes a -10-foot status penalty to all of its speeds, and the target takes a -1 status penalty to its saving throws. And critical success is unaffected. A success is the target takes the penalties for 1 round. The target takes the penalties for 1 minute. On a failure, and critical failure takes a -1 status penalty to their AC as well. So a critical failure gets a 5th penalty on top of this. And this can be heightened to reduce those reductions by 1 as you scale up. So that's a pretty devastating debuff, really. Hags. Hags cursed your family long ago, or you're descendant of a hag or a changeling, and their magic infests your blood and soul. Tradition is occult. Deception or occultism are your bloodlines. Bloodline spells, you have options with Jealous Hex. You draw forth a Hag's Innate Jealousy to deny the target its greatest attribute, so the target is cursed with an adverse condition depending on its highest modifier. Strength, Dex, Con, etc. It targets those with the correct debuffing skills. On a tie, the creature decides which of the conditions associated ties to the curse, and they must make a will save. At the start of each turn, the target can attempt another will save to end the duration. And I can't quite see because of the zoomed in. Yes, on a failure, the condition is 1. On a critical failure, it is a condition 2. This lasts for 1 minute, but they do get a save at the start of each round. Horrific Visage. 30-foot radius, this is an emanation. You briefly transform your features into the horrific visage of a hag, striking fear into your enemies. Foes in the area must attempt a will save, so this does not affect your allies. Failures frighten 1, critical failures frighten 2, so you are just really the debuffing machine with these. And your mine at 5, you manipulate the target's emotion, potentially allowing you to control them for a brief instant. The target must make a will save. On a success, they're getting stunned 1. On the target's next turn, they are stunned 1, and you partially control it, causing it to take a single action of your choice. So it's losing 1 action to stunned, it's losing 1 action to you telling it what to do. So if it's a 3-action creature, it only gets 1 action on that next turn. And then on a critical failure, you control it for the entire round and they are not stunned. So that could be a pretty devastating debuff. Your blood magic is retributive. Spite, malice, and acrimony take physical form around you. You deal 4 mental damage per spell rank, basic will save, to the first creature that deals damage to you before the end of your next turn. If no creature damages you in that time, you consume that spite and gain temporary hit points at the beginning of your next turn equal to the spell's rank. Temporary hit points last until the beginning of your following turn. The Harrow. You have a deep connection to the Harrow, perhaps passed on through generations or unlocked after you had a Harrow reading performed on you. Connection gives you an uncanny influence over your own fate. Spell is occult. You're getting occultism and performance, which makes sense with performing a Harrow. Unraveling Blast. 30 feet, 1 creature. It's a will save. You unleash a small blast of potential that destroys 1 creature's possible features, leaving them reeling. You deal 2d4 mental damage to the creature, and it must make a will save, which these are fairly standard, except at failure now, on top of full damage, they're flat-footed. And on a critical failure, they're taking double, and they're stunned 1, and they're flat-footed. So that's quite a bit of debuffs associated with just a normal damage spell. Invoke the Harrow. I feel these are all going to be long, so we're going to open them up. My goodness. Draw a card from the Harrow. So highly recommend, if you don't have it, pick up the Harrow deck from Pathfinder for Foundry. Super cool to actually be able to draw the cards and see all the stuff about them. If you play on a VTT, or pick up the Harrow cards themselves, they're neat. Either one from a deck you have in hand or a magically produced one as part of the spell. You use the power of the card suit to influence the creatures around you. When you draw a card, you can choose to impart a boon or a bane associated with the card suit. The target must attempt a will save. On a failure, they receive the effect of the chosen boon or bane. If the target's an ally of the spell, you can choose to willingly accept the effect without attempting the saving throw. The target can attempt to remove the card's influence by using an action which has the concentration trait to attempt a saving throw again, so they have to spend an action to get rid of any of these. If you draw hammers, it's +2 to damage, or they're enfeebled. If you draw keys, it's +1 to AC, or clumsy 1. If you draw shields, it's temp HP equal to the spell's level, or bane, they are drained 1. Ouch, drained is pretty killer there, so shields would be awesome. Books, +1 to skill checks, or they're stupefied, pretty devastating on a caster. Stars, +1 to saving throws or confused, also pretty devastating. Or crowns, the target can roll twice and take the higher result, so you're getting advantage on all of your rolls. Or they can roll twice and they have to take the lower on each roll as a misfortune effect. So those are pretty devastating. And this is only the mid-level one at 3. And the last option you get is Rewrite Possibility. This is 1 creature. It has to be touch, so you're going to have to be really close, but it lasts for 1 minute. You continually glimpse into the target's future and nudge fate to guide them toward the best possible outcome. Due to the amount of information the spell requires you to process, you can't have more than 1 Rewrite Possibility spell in effect at a time. Casting it again ends the previous casting. While Rewrite Possibility is in effect, the target gains a +1 status bonus to initiative rolls. In addition, you gain the following effects. Reaction. The target fails a check. The target rolls again with a +2 bonus and uses the higher result. So basically, you get a buff on someone and you get to use your reaction to give them a reroll on everything they do for the next minute. That's pretty spectacular. All right, your blood magic for the Harrow is you become enveloped in possibility, represented as multiple versions of yourself from your possible futures overlaid on each other. You gain concealment for 1 round. You can't use this to hide. So a whole bunch of multiple timelines of yourself show up, giving yourself a little bit of cover. Kind of cool. If the concealment works, does one of your alternate timelines take the blow? Interesting things a GM could do with that if you're doing a bunch of weird time stuff. The Imperial bloodline. Your ancestor was a mortal who mastered magic. Arcane. This really just sounds like you want to be a traditional arcane casting sorcerer. Imperial is the way to go. Bloodline spells, you get ancestral memories. For 1 action, the memories of a long dead spellcaster grant you knowledge, making your spells more formidable. You gain a +1 status bonus to the next spell attack roll you attempt, or an enemy within 60 feet takes a -1 status penalty to their next saving throw, and this heightens to +2, -2, +3, -3. So a pretty solid just single action ahead of time. Trigger your bloodline spell, trigger your bloodline, and then give yourself a buff on the next spell cast. Pretty devastating. Extended blood magic. You call upon the arcane energy coursing through your blood to extend the magic it grants. If your next action is to cast a spell that grants you a blood magic effect, although isn't this granting a blood magic effect? I digress. You or the target gain the blood magic effect for an additional round. So you get 2 rounds out of your blood magic. You can have only 1 extended blood magic effect up at a time. If your blood magic is really cool on this, let's just see what it is now. Raw magic emanates from all the cells in your body, protecting you. You start your next turn. You gain the choice of a +1 bonus to AC or a +1 to saving throws. I don't think I'd really care to extend that much. I'm unimpressed. Arcane countermeasures, so this is a reaction. A target you can see within range casts a spell. You undermine the target's spell, making it easier to defend against. You reduce the spell's rank by 1. Ouch, that's pretty devastating right out the gate. And targets of the spell gain a +2 bonus to any saving throws, skill checks, ACs, or DC against it. Again, pretty solid. You just knock it down a level and then make everyone +2 resistant to it. Okay, I like that one. Extend blood magic though, I don't really see it. Next up, the Nymph. One of your ancestors was inspired by a nymph, or perhaps was a nymph themselves, and now the beauty of nature lives in you. Another primal option, you're getting Diplomacy in Nature. Bloodline spells, Nymph's Token. This lasts for 1 minute. You grant an ally a token of favor. You create a token, such as a lock of your hair or a flower, that persists for as long as the spell's duration. As part of casting the spell, you can interact to pass the token to an ally within your reach. As long as that ally has a token on their person, they gain a +1 to performance and will saves. You can dismiss the spell as a free action. Heightened at 4, you can increase the range from touch to 30 feet. So decent little way to buff someone's will saves. Blinding Beauty is a 30-foot cone, or you channel the allure of your nymph bloodline into a terribly beautiful glance. Each enemy in the area must attempt a will save. Critical success, they're unaffected. On a success, they're dazzled till their next turn. On a failure, they're blinded until the start of the next turn. And on a critical failure, the creature is blinded for 1 minute. So that could be a pretty good debuff. Establish Ward, 1 minute and a 30-foot burst. You bind a part of your essence to your surroundings, created a warded area that grants you power within it, but drains you outside of it. While within the area, you can make Nature's Wrath strikes by commanding plants, wind, rocks, and other natural features to attack enemies. These are melee strikes that use your spell attack modifier, can target any creature within the ward, dealing 3d6/8 bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. Upon casting the spell, you can immediately make a single Nature's Wrath strike. You are quickened while inside the ward and can use additional actions only to make Nature's Wrath strikes. You are slowed 1 when outside the area. So pretty interesting. 30-foot burst, 1 minute. You're getting a pretty solid offensive attack for free. You still have your full 3-action economy to do other magic-y stuff. Your blood magic is Nymph's Grace. Accentuates your movements and distracts your foes, granting you a +1 bonus to diplomacy checks, or imposing a -1 status penalty on the target's will saves for 1 round. So imposing will saves when you are casting spells against them sounds pretty fantastic. Next up, the Phoenix. You've been blessed by a Phoenix, perhaps via some magical interaction with a similarly blessed individual. Grant this new Sorcerer bloodline to players who finish the... Oh, this is from a specific adventure path. So just make sure your GM's fine if you're taking this one. It uses the primal spell list. You're getting Diplomacy in Nature. You're probably going to get a lot of like fire and healing stuff here. Bloodline spells, Rejuvenating Flames, 2 actions. 15-foot cone. You create a gout of flame that both heals and burns. You restore 1d4 hit points to all allies in the area, and those allies gain a +1 bonus to fortitude saves for 1 minute. Enemies take 1d4 fire damage with a basic reflex save, and this does heighten 1d4 per level. Shroud of Flames, 10-foot emanation, sustained for up to 1 minute. You encircle yourself in an aura of protective flames. Each creature that hits you with an unarmed attack or grapples you or otherwise touches you takes 3 fire damage. When you cast the spell the first time, you sustain it each round. Each creature in the area takes 3d6 fire damage. So pretty solid little fire burst. This does heighten with you, and then if you're getting hit, they're taking more damage, which if they are weak to fire, that can start to add up super quick. Cleansing Flames, 1 creature, 2 actions. You wrap a target in Purifying Flames. You can attempt to counteract a single poison or non-curse effect, the clumsy, dazzled, enfeebled, fatigued, frightened, paralyzed, sickened, or stupefied condition. The target can choose to empower the flames with their life force, becoming drained 1 to grant a +1 bonus to your counteract check. I don't really know if drained 1 is worth removing any of those penalties. I mean, I guess if you're multiple clumsied, multiple dazzled, multiple sickened, the drained 1 might be an okay trade-off, but yeah, that's kind of tough. The blood magic, primal fire of life and death flows through you or 1 target. Choose to have either you or the target of the spell gain temporary HP equal to the spell's level for 1 round. or to have the target of the spell take fire damage equal to the spell's level. This combines with the damage as normal. It's nice, you can either hit point or further damage them. A Psychopomp. For good or ill, your ancestors' deeds drew the intention of Psychopomps, or you might somehow count one in your family tree. The presence of these shepherds of souls and enemies of undeath has left an indelible mark on you. Divine spells. Again, very few arcane in here. It's mostly all the other ones. At least it feels like it to me. Maybe it just stands out to me because it's so different from other editions. Bloodline skills, you're getting Intimidation and Religion. Bloodline spells, you're getting Sepulchre Mask. This is 5-foot emanation, targets enemies only. You manifest a supernatural funerary mask, granting a +1 bonus to will saves against emotion effects for 1 minute. Its somber countenance forces your foes to confront their regrets and sins. Each enemy in the area you cast the spell or that starts in your turn takes 1d4 mental damage and must take a will save. Critical success unaffected, success half damage, failure full damage, and they take a -1 penalty to will saves for 1 round to emotion effects, and critical failure double damage, -1 to will saves against emotions for 1 minute. And these do heighten every 2 levels for 2d4, and the radius gets bigger. So that's a pretty solid 2-action level 1 focus spell. Spirit Veil, this lasts for 1 minute. You draw an occluding veil of spirits around yourself. Blocking yourself especially well from undead eyes, you become concealed to all creatures and you are hidden from undead creatures regardless of what precise senses they have. So that's really good because a lot of undead have more precise senses. This grants the effects of invisibility. If you physically interact with an undead creature or use a hostile action, the spell ends. So essentially invisibility of undead, this does heighten, and it allows you to target 1 additional willing creature within 30 feet, so you can eventually get this on all your buddies. Shepherd of Souls, this is a reaction. Living creature within 30 feet takes damage. You stay the hand of fate of 1 not yet destined to die, sacrificing some of your own vitality to heal them. You lose up to 15 hit points as a sacrifice, and the target reduces the damage by twice the number of hit points sacrificed. So if they take 50 damage and you give up 15 hit points, they take 30 less damage, which is pretty solid. This reduction exceeds the amount of damage the target recovers hit points equal to the excess amount. So if you actually overcome the damage they've dealt, they can actually heal from it. And then the maximum number of hit points gets increased by 5 every 2 levels that you heighten it. Blood Magic, the border between life and death becomes blurred to you. Either you gain a +2 to fortitude saves for 1 round, or the target takes 1 damage per spell level. The damage is negative if the target is living, positive if it's undead, so you get a chance to maybe lean into some weaknesses there against the undead. And all of it combined so you don't get to double dip on that. Shadow, whether due to Velstrax's manipulation or a planar jaunt gone horribly wrong, your bloodline was infused with a vein of shadow. This is occult, you're getting occultism and stealth. Bloodline spells dim the light. This is a reaction. You magnify the darkness from a triggering effect, causing the ambient light to flicker briefly so you can slip from sight. You can immediately attempt a stealth check to hide, and you can become hidden to creatures even if you don't have cover. So if you're playing a sneaky sorcerer, this could be pretty cool. Steal Shadow, you steal the creature's shadow, leaving it weakened and vulnerable. Critical success, they're unaffected. On a success, they're enfeebled 1 for 1 round, so just a solid debuff on a miss. On a failure, they take 3d4 negative damage. They're enfeebled 1 for the spell's duration as you tear their shadow away, collecting it in your hand. On subsequent rounds, and the first time each round you sustain the spell, you can throttle the shadow to deal 3d4 negative damage to the target until the spell ends. The target doesn't cast a shadow, and then on a critical failure, they go up to enfeebled 2. So you've ripped their shadow away like a la Peter Pan, and then you're just beating their shadow and hurting them. Kind of morbid. And then Greater Consuming Darkness. This is a 10-foot emanation. It targets enemies in the area, so it won't hurt your allies. So they'll need to make a reflex saving throw, and the duration lasts for 1 minute. Your shadow wriggles before spreading out from you, forming a gateway of clinging, consuming shadow through which horrors of another plane can barely be seen. The first time each turn you sustain the spell, the radius increases by 5 feet, so it's going to get bigger. And each enemy that enters the area or begins its turn in the area takes 2d6 negative damage and must attempt a reflex save. Critical success, they're unaffected. On a success, the creature sinks partially into shadow, taking half damage, and a -5-foot circumstance penalty to speed, so they're just getting sucked into the shadow and bogged down. On a success, it's full damage and a -10 penalty to their movement. And on a critical failure, they're absorbed into the shadow where it can be seen below the surface. It takes double damage and is immobilized for 1 round or until it escapes. And it heightened, this damage increases by 1d6. So a pretty solid, just big emanation area that's going to bog people down from getting to you. and possibly lock them down in this weird shadowy grasp thing. So pretty solid area control of effect. Your blood magic, shadows grow deeper around you or one target, either granting a +1 bonus to stealth or imposing a -1 penalty to perception checks for 1 round. Undead. The touch of the undead runs through your blood. Your family tree might contain a powerful undead, like a vampire. So are you a damn fear with the undead bloodline? We're just double into the undeadness there. Intimidation and religion. This is using divine magic because undead are usually tied to religion. Bloodline spell, you're going to get Undeath's Blessing. You instill within the creature a touch of the grave. For the duration, harm and heal spells treat the creature as undead. In addition, harm spells gain a +2 bonus to the hit points restored to the target. An unwilling creature can attempt a will save to reduce the effects. So you can either make a creature susceptible to heal to wound them to maybe help out a cleric in the party, do AoE heals, or you can make all of your party make harm heal them as if they're undead, taking away an enemy divine caster's damage output. Critical success, they're unaffected. On a success, the target heals half as much from a heal and takes half as much from a harm. And failure is the effects happen as they describe. Drain life. 1 living creature, basic fortitude save. You close your hand and pull life energy from another creature to yourself, dealing 3d4 void damage. The target must attempt a fortitude save. You gain temporary hit points equal to the damage the target takes after resolving the save and applying the blood magic effects if applicable. If the target's hit points were lower than the damage you dealt, you gain temporary hit points equal to the remaining hit points instead. Temporary hit points last for 1 minute. Basic damage spell to get you some life back, and then Grasping Grave. Hundreds of skeletal arms erupt from the ground in the area, clawing at creatures within and attempting to hold them. 66 slashing damage, so pretty solid in a 20-foot radius within a range of 60 feet, so a pretty solid AoE spell. They must make a reflex save. Critical success unaffected, success half damage, failure full damage, and a -10 to movement speed, and then double damage, and they're immobilized for 1 minute, so very similar to Shadow. Your blood magic effect, Stolen Life. You can channel the necromantic energy in your blood. Either you gain temporary hit points equal to the spell's rank that lasts until the start of your next turn, or the target takes 1 void damage per spell rank. So that's where it was talking about on the Drain Life. You can tack this on, deal the extra damage, and still get more hit points back. And last but not least, Wyrmblessed. You lay claim to the might of dragons, but your powers are sacred instead of arcane, born from the worship of draconic might, so powerful it infused your blood, or perhaps from a celestial or draconic power blessing one of your ancestors received. Spell list, Divine, Intimidation or Religion for a skill. All the same spells as the Draconic bloodline. And then you gain a +1 bonus to Intimidation or a -1 bonus to enemy will saves. So there you guys go. Those are all of the bloodlines to choose from. Tons of choices, all the different spell lists. How do you want to build your sorcerer? Do you want to be magic arcane to the max? Do you want to be debuffing? Do you want to be healing? Do you want to be buffing? All of these options are available to you based on the bloodline you take. As always, if you like what we're doing here on the channel, please like and subscribe if you haven't. Easiest way to support the channel, leave a comment. Love chatting with you guys. What is your favorite bloodline? Is there something you didn't know about the bloodlines that this video helped you out with? I'd love to hear about that in the comments. And I'm going to wish you guys a fantastic time on your 20-sided adventures. We'll catch you next time.